And then there's frickin' Instagram. So, like, honestly, it's kind of like this social thing that's both social and personal. So we can start with Instagram. Instagram makes it look like you're going to go out fly fishing and it's going to be golden hour all day. And there's going to be like massive hatches and you're going to have like perfectly braided pigtails down to your butt cheeks. And your hat is always going to fit your head. Right. Yeah. And like, you're going to look so cute and you're going to be so good at it. And you're just going to look flawless. Even the men have pigtails down to their butt. You know, it's like everything is just mwah. And then you get out there and you're like, I'm a bumbling, sweaty fart and I cannot make this happen. And it just makes you compare yourself to others in this way that is constantly in your face. You like one fly fishing video and that's all you're going to see for a decade.
Hello and welcome to Sidechannels, presented by the Fly Fish Journal. My name is Jason Rolfe. I'm the editor of the Fly Fish Journal as well as the host of Sidechannels, along with our photo editor, Kopi Vojta. Today's show features Kristen Bufe, who some of you might know from her handle on Instagram @TroutPsychology, where she posts easily digestible tidbits on casting advice and general fly fishing wisdom, all tinted with her unique, offbeat take on things. That offbeat take stems from her background in behavioral analysis and a firm belief that anyone can fly fish, and fly fish well if given the right tools. We'll get to Kristen in a minute, but before we do, I want to tell you about our sponsors. You know that black hole in the back of your truck where gear goes to disappear forever? Decked has put a stop to that. Fishing rods, organized. Power tools locked down. Climbing gear, camping gear, sports gear, your kids' weird toy collection, all of it dry, secure, and actually findable. It's like a filing cabinet for your rugged side. I've got the decked drawer system in my truck, and honestly, it's a game changer. I can hit the road, get waded up, and be waist deep in the river before most people finish untangling their leaders. So stop playing hide and seek with your gear. Get decked and get after it. Check out decked.com/flyfish and treat your truck like the gear-hauling beast it was born to be. Sidechannels is also supported by Patagonia Fly Fishing. Patagonia's commitment to making solid gear that stands up to all the abuse you can throw at it is matched by their dedication to our home planet. They've had some great things brewing recently, including their new Swift Current Expedition waders. Built on exploration, these waders are purpose-made for connecting with wild fish and inspired by the tireless anglers and groups fighting to protect the clean water those fish depend on. Visit patagonia.com/fly-fishing to learn more about the new Swift Current Expedition Series waders and the community of conservationists and environmental advocates that make Patagonia what it is. I first stumbled across Kristen Bufe thanks to Instagram. Scrolling through Reels, the algorithm fed me a clip of a woman standing on a lawn delivering casting advice in a kind of deadpan manner. She reminded me a bit of the late 90s cartoon character Daria for some reason, though as I watched more of Kristen's videos, you can find her at TroutPsychology, the comparison ran thin. Because even though that deadpan offbeat delivery was there, Kristen's reels also turned out to be funny, even hilarious at times, and they were informational. She somehow managed to pack casting instruction and fly fishing tips in there in a way that felt new, felt fresh, felt different from what you normally see. Kristen's fresh take on casting and fishing instruction is informed by her background in behavior analysis. And to me, it is a breath of fresh air in a sport that can, I think, sometimes feel a bit mothballed and beholden to tradition. It's always nice to see a fresh take on things. We got into the weeds of that a bit in this conversation before turning in the second half to really, I guess, how she applies those methods in the real world on the water through Streamside Cove & Co., the guide business that she runs based out of Cle Elum in Washington's Central Cascade Mountains. Kopi and I met up with Kristen at her home in Clealum on a hot day in early August. The conversation was wide-ranging, meaningful, and definitely funny, and it felt like we could have kept going for another couple hours. I think you will dig it. Let's do the show. How's the season been?
It's been busier in different ways than previous seasons, I'll say. There's a lot of like back end work trying to figure out how to run a legitimate business as opposed to just being a trout bum that is convincing people to get in my boat. It's very different. So there's been a lot of that kind of learning curve going on for me this summer, which I'm enjoying. So
it's been a welcome change, kind of stepping outside of the trout bum shoes a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to develop new skill sets. I was telling Nate, my partner, last night, I was like, I have to learn about all of this, but I don't even know what I have to learn. I don't know anything. Yeah. I know the word marketing. I know the word analytics, but I don't know what to do with it.
So you feel like is that a sign of growth, I guess? Like things are going beyond just people calling you up to go fishing a little bit. Or maybe it's just people are more regularly calling you up to go fishing.
Yes, there's a lot more, to the point where multiple times yesterday as I'm digging deeper, or throughout the season as I've been digging deeper, I keep putting a sticky note that says, okay, hire someone for that and hire someone for that. So eventually I'm going to have to start training people. And I joke with Nate that I've gotten to the point where I've done my first hostile takeover because I've actually absorbed his business into mine. So he's closing down at the end of the season and we're going to operate together.
Oh, really?
With him operating underneath me from here on out.
And Nate is your partner, and he's been guiding out here
for 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah, he's really, really impressive as a guide and human being.
What has been his sort of guiding purview? Just the Yakima River and Clealum, or kind of does he cast a wider net?
He does the Yakima here in Clealum. He's dabbled in Idaho stuff before, but like these are his home waters, so this is where he stays, which is perfect because that's where I want to have guide trips run.
Yeah. How much is it meant to kind of have that, not only, personal partnership, but, business partnership with Nate in a way, just kind of building what you've been building here?
It's been incredibly needed and meaningful. I think that we touched on the last time that we talked that I am a severely ADHD riddled human being. So, I can come up with goals and things that I want to do. And then sometimes it's like the mechanic's car never runs, right? So when I'm at home, things kind of, fall to the wayside, or I'll get like really, really highly motivated to complete a task. And then 10 minutes later, I'm just like sitting there in a daze, like, oh my God, woe is me. We're never going to get anything done. And then I have him to help step in and be like, hey, you're being really dramatic. And
it's okay. We'll get through this.
Exactly. So it's been very helpful to just have somebody who knows my business as well as he does, who knows the river as well as he does, kind of like help guide me, along with all the other people in the community that are, women-owned shop owners and all of this kind of stuff that like helps me kind of stay on track, which is nice.
Yeah. I imagine it must not have been difficult for him to sort of get behind your vision, in the sense that, I think my sense of it is that, you're doing something more than just guiding, obviously. There's kind of a guiding philosophy behind what you do. Has Nate been part, or I guess maybe the bigger question is like, are there other people that have been a part of helping you sort of shape that? And we'll talk about that, obviously. But just like who are some of the people that have helped you kind of shape Streamside Cove & Co. and kind of trout psychology and
right.
everything else that you are kind of chasing these days?
Honestly, the answer has to be my students and my clients. That has been the folks that have shaped it the most, because I have a drive and a vision and a reason why I'm doing this. It's very personal to me why Streamside Cove & Co. is built the way that it is. And then to get student and client reactions to that programming has helped really shape and drive it in one direction or another. I'm always true to why I'm doing it. And when I see other folks inspired and other folks responding to it in a way that I can see we're on a similar path, it reinforces that and shapes it. And similarly, when folks don't seem to respond to it and don't seem to like it, that helps shape it as well.
How would you, just to kind of step back a little bit, how would you describe sort of your overarching goals with Streamside Cove & Co.?
That's a really good question right now, because over the summer it has been kind of like blending and morphing into new things. The back of that door on the bathroom has a yellow sticky note list that is probably as half as tall as I am.
Nice.
And the yellow coding is, where could this go? All of the little brainstorming issues. But as far as what I want out of it, at the core, is I want adults to be reminded that this is their life, and we don't have to stop acting like children and playing and being curious and enjoying our life the same way that we did when we were 10 years old and inspecting a frog in the backyard. That is the ultimate goal, is just to pull people into fly fishing in a way that sparks their curiosity and makes people not afraid to fail. That's the other thing. Failure is not necessarily a bad word. It's just a part of a learning process that we weren't inherently afraid of when we were kids. We would go out and build a bike ramp and fail so hard and just get up and do it again. Or we would decide that we were gonna, be superheroes or whatever else that it was. And we weren't worried about failure.
Yeah.
And so I want adults to come into fly fishing not being worried about failure, meeting it with curiosity, and unlocking parts of themselves that they have put down in favor of working the extra hour, neglecting themselves for nourishing other people, whatever it else that it is that we do, that we all do.
It's almost like you're trying to teach people that it's like to find their inner trout bum.
Yeah.
In a way, like it's okay to have that little part of yourself who, every once in a while will just forget about responsibilities, forget about your to-do list and just get out
and play.
And do you feel like that's kind of a part of it?
Oh yeah, it's a huge part.
So you mentioned this sort of not being afraid to fail, not sort of struggling with a fear of failure. Is that something that you have struggled with over your life?
Yeah.
Do you feel like this kind of comes from your own experience with that?
Yes, 100%. I mean, as a kid, and I know that I come back to this a lot, but it really did shape who I am and who I was. I had ADHD. I was a menace as a child, always doing too much, never quite being enough. I always felt like I was in some way, especially in school where you're expected to be super organized and on time and paying attention all the time. I always personally felt as though I was set up for failure. And so then when that failure happened, it just felt like one more drop in the pool to prove that I was somehow not good enough, wasn't supposed to be here, didn't belong, whatever else that it was. And when you have a learning experience and a learning history that tells you that you're going to fail and that you're also not good enough, you become afraid to put yourself out there and try new things. Because in the past, I have failed. And that failure was met with disappointing people, disappointing yourself. And so when I got into fly fishing the way that I have recently, I'd say in the last decade, I had gone through schooling and learned behavior analysis. And what that did was basically give me permission to break skills down so tiny that I can't fail. And then doing that for myself in everyday situations built up my confidence. And then I was able to apply it to an entire learning career of fly fishing. And when somebody who was inherently self-doubtful, inherently negative in the way that I spoke to myself based on my learning history, was able to come out the other side of that a raging badass. I'm just like, everybody deserves this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like there's definitely no shortage of us that would benefit from, kind of figuring that out. And yeah, I certainly could. I mean, I can fall into those kind of, little traps of kind of berating myself and whatnot here and there. And it's, not incredibly problematic, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, like if that was completely gone, I feel like.
Yeah, what would that be like?
Right. If it was 180, like, oh yeah, maybe I wouldn't spend as much time with that sort of thing going on in my head, and it would be filled with,
anything else.
Anything else, yeah.
And what's shocking is that we don't really pay attention to actually how often that kind of stuff is happening. So, for example, being a data-driven and observation-driven person by trade and lifestyle, I took an hour while I was fishing one time, and I just tallied how often I said something unkind to myself, or just had like a buffer thought that was like, damn, seriously, like where I would say something unkind in any way. And it was around 107 times, which is so much more. If you would ask me how often you say it in an hour, I'd probably say maybe 10, 15.
Yeah.
Not 107.
Yeah.
And becoming aware of those things is the first step toward flipping something around, right? So there were all sorts of different things I did in order to ensure that I don't do that in my learning practice anymore. But we do it more than we think.
That's so funny because I talk to a therapist every few weeks, month, for lots of different reasons. And it's been really fantastic. Like, he's an awesome guy, and I've been talking to him for a few years now. And, he's helped me get through some difficult times and also just kind of get through normal times, right? Yeah. And just like, I mean, mainly I think just learn about myself, obviously. But he told me one time, and this is something we've been talking about recently, so it's just kind of a funny coincidence that you bring it up, but he told me about this time that he went on what he called he called it his inner critic retreat.
Heck yeah.
And he went backpacking for like 3 days out on the Washington coast or something like that, 2 or 3 days. Took his notebook with him, and the whole time he spent, just any time he had one of those inner critical thoughts, about himself, he would write it down. And he did it. He did it for like 72 hours straight, which there's a degree to which, like, that's terrifying to me. The idea of doing that is just like, oh my God, but also I know, or at the very least I can see that, like, there's a lot of value in that. And, but I'm wondering how did you get to, like, what made you decide to do that? To sit down and just write that stuff down, journal that stuff out? Was that, I mean, you said you were fly fishing, so I'm assuming it's somewhat recently, but what brought you to that point?
Yeah. Honestly, it was just ruining my vibe. Like, it really was, like I was going out to practice, and like I would be saying things to myself when I would get a knot or something. I'd be like, oh God, you're so dumb. Like, you just got done undoing a knot. And I would get myself all flustered from that. And I was just like, I'm having a mangled ass time when I'm coming out here, and I don't have anyone with me. So nobody is influencing my bad time but me. It's just me out here.
Or to like help bring light to the situation by just, bringing comedy into it or whatever to kind of help you forget. Because I feel like that's super helpful to have someone else there that is kind of just, talking shit to you a little bit, ribbing you in a good way.
Yes. Or like leading by example. One of my good friends, Ed, in Michigan, we were out one time and I was just so inspired by the fact that he overshot his cast and the line like wrapped in the tree. And I was like, oh, you'll get it out. And he goes, oh no, I saw it hinge. There's no way that's coming out. And then he just like giggled at himself as he like yanked it out of the tree and had to retie everything. And I was like, I want to be Ed. Like, that's who I want to be.
Just kind of letting stuff roll off your back.
Yes. And I was seemingly incapable of doing that at the time. So that was kind of what I was like, if I'm going to be coming out here and enjoying myself, I have to get me out of the way first.
Yeah.
Or shape her to be a kinder version of herself.
Yeah. Yeah. How did that show up when you were younger? Was that, kind of ever present, middle school, high school, trying to figure things out?
Yep. Even younger than that. I remember very, very vividly just always, there was a phase when I was at my youngest point that I was just, information gathering. Kids are sponges. Mm-hmm. So you just sit and you absorb the world around you. And kids are a lot smarter than people give them credit for. They can understand facial expressions. They might not know the exact emotion behind it, but they know it isn't happy. And so when you're a kid and you're just like constantly seeing adults giving you these looks in response to your actions, you start that learning process really, really young. And that, of course, was just pervasive through young adulthood, teenagehood, young adulthood. And it wasn't until I started being my version of, what do they call it when it's like hard love? Tough love. I'm a tough love advocate for myself. Yeah. Where it's like, the only person who's going to fix this is you. Nobody's going to fix this for you. No one's going to save this for you. No one's going to give you the day of fly fishing that you want. No one's going to give you the social interactions that you want unless you personally start doing the work. And honestly, fly fishing was a wonderful ladder to doing that. With every new skill set that you learned, there is some kind of emotional, mental growth that can accommodate that and serve as a platform for it. Like untying knots, for example. Untying knots is no longer just untying knots. It's a moment to check in with your stomach and being like, hey, are we pissed off right now? Because if we're trying to rush through a knot and we're pissed off,
it's not gonna
what's going on?
Happen.
It's not the knot that you're mad at. What's going on? And that's a moment as you are gently and patiently and gracefully with yourself untying your knot to ask yourself those questions and kind of give yourself a reset before you try it again.
What do you think it is that I don't know if you see it or, if people see it in other pastimes or hobbies or sports or whatever. I guess we probably do, but what is it about something like fly fishing, you think, that can make it so frustrating? Or is it not fly fishing? Maybe it's just anytime a human tries to attempt, something that's sort of marginally difficult, it's just a human thing. Do you think that there's something special about fly fishing that makes it as crazy making as it is?
Yes and no.
Or have you seen that maybe with clients and people?
There's a couple of, I would say it's like a 3-prong thing. So I'm going to kind of like write this down really quick so I don't forget, because there's upcoming schedules of reinforcement and then upcoming schedules. There's clear success measurements. And then there's frickin' Instagram. So like, honestly, it's kind of like this social thing that's both social and personal. So we can start with Instagram. Instagram makes it look like you're going to go out fly fishing and it's going to be golden hour all day. And there's going to be like massive hatches and you're going to have like perfectly braided pigtails down to your butt cheeks. And your hat is always going to fit your head. Right? Yeah. And like, you're going to look so cute and you're going to be so good at it. And you're just going to look flawless. Even the men have pigtails. cocktails down to their butt. You know, it's like everything is just mwah. And then you get out there and you're like, I'm a bumbling, sweaty fart and I cannot make this happen. And it just makes you compare yourself to others in this way that is constantly in your face. You like one fly fishing video and that's all you're going to see for a decade. And then there are clear measurements of success, right? I mean, that's what's showcased. Your big fish that you're holding out of the water and smiling about. And that's your clear measurement of success. Your 36-inch brown trout out of the White River in Arkansas. You know, that is the measurement of success for most folks until you really get into it and you realize that measurement of success is tiered. From the bottom to the top, right? Much shallower, right? And so we have something to compare ourselves to. It's just like people wanting to be a billionaire. You're not a billionaire till you are. You know? So like when you're not a billionaire, you're quote unquote failing. When you're not holding that big fish, you've somehow failed. And then it's also the upcoming schedule of reinforcement, which in behavior analysis is just to say that when an individual sees how much work goes into a thing, it demotivates them. So it makes them less likely to want to like take that step, take the time, put in the work, because, you know, while you're untangling your third knot of the day or your line is tangled in the pine tree, it's really easy to be like, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to get there until something helps you along the way.
Or when you're untangling that knot and you get like one loop done, but then you like look back at the rest of it that has yet to be untangled and you're kind of like, oh, that was just a very small part of like everything else that I have to do.
And I might have made it worse. Like, I don't even know if it was the right way.
Might have been the wrong thread to pull.
Right, 100%.
Yeah. At what point, I guess, I mean, let's keep going back. So you grew up in the Midwest. And obviously your knowledge of behavioral science and the way we react to these things and everything, you know, you weren't born with that.
No.
What were your sort of interests early on before you sort of discovered this? I mean, I feel like we can call it a calling, because you really, I mean, you know, I don't think I've met anybody who's as passionate about this and as sort of convincing about these sorts of ideas as you are. But yeah, what was growing up like? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the outskirts of Detroit.
What is the area like? I know the reason I ask partly is because I have no real like concept of. I feel like I can kind of picture maybe the Upper Peninsula a little bit, and I have like some ideas from reading Jim Harrison books, you know, but I have no real conception of that whole area.
I'm happy to paint you a picture.
Yes.
So I'm so sorry to all Michigan folks out there or Midwest folks out there. So Lower Michigan, if you are on a lake, of which there are plenty, but especially if you're on one of the Great Lakes, it's party time. Dreams are made of gorgeousness, like all of the good stuff. But if you're like out of sight of the lakes, it's cement, big box stores, cornfields. And I'll fight anybody who tries to tell me that like that is not the case, because it is. I grew up there and I know that it is. Yeah. And then the Upper Peninsula.
It's pretty flat country.
Yeah, I mean there's some rolling hills here and there, but it's nothing like you know, its neighbors like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, like even much areas of Ohio. Yeah. And then the Upper Peninsula, where I spent a lot of my childhood, and where like I think I came out of the womb as like a mini Steve Irwin, Bill Nye Science guy, and was just ready to like take in all of the information that I was interested in. But the Upper Peninsula really shaped a lot of who I am. My dad's family is from the Upper Peninsula. My dad grew up in a tiny town called Grand Marais, Michigan, less than 300 year-round residents kind of thing, surrounded by the most incredible, stunning beauty that I can fathom. It's like Puget Sound meets Norway, and just
so dramatic, like dramatic landscape.
Yeah, I mean it's like 20 to 40 foot cliffs that border absolutely turquoise, crystal clear water of Lake Superior, which is one of the world's most like slept on beautiful places in the world. It's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And the quietness and steadiness of that place is really what shaped what I was interested in. To answer your question, what I was interested in as a kid, I liked watching paint grow or paint dry in nature. Like I did. I would go outside and I would stare at the bark of birch trees, and I would pick horsetails and try to make necklaces out of them. I liked collecting rocks that my grandpa told me were agates, even though they were clearly not agates. I liked fireflies. I liked anything that allowed me to be alone, not spoken to by an adult, and surrounded by nature was my jam. And my time spent there with my grandparents and with my dad fly fishing on little brook trout creeks was everything. I mean, there was like a time in my life where people would say, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Grand Marais," because the time outside of that space didn't exist in my memory and development.
Do you have siblings?
I do have siblings.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many?
2 brothers and a sister.
Where are you at in the mix?
I am the second.
The second?
Yes.
Okay. So,
And for a while, I was the middle kid, so I really lived up to like the second middle kid Hellion vibes.
yeah.
And then the fourth one came, and the vibe stayed the
kinda
same,
ruined
but
it.
I lost the title.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. What do your siblings do?
My sister is a nurse. My brother is also an entrepreneur. My second, like, youngest brother, and then my youngest brother has autism, and he is a bagger and grocery stocker at a local grocery store, and he's really into trains, animal facts, and airplanes.
Really?
Yes.
Back in Michigan?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. You're you mentioned that you were fishing with your dad. Last time we talked, I guess we can go ahead and say that we interviewed you once before.
Yes.
And had some technical difficulties that we don't need to go into. So this is our second time chatting, but I'm glad that I'm almost glad that we're doing it a second time, because
I thought the same thing. I was
nice.
like, we got some of the stuff out of the way.
It was a really fun conversation last time, but and plus it gives us an excuse to come out to Eastern Washington and hang out. So that's always nice.
Always a good
well.
vibe.
Yeah. But you mentioned before fishing with your dad, how early, and I can't remember, were you fly fishing early on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was independent on a fly rod at around 7 years old.
Wow.
So I've been doing this for a long time. And
did you take to it right? I mean, it sounds like you did take to it right away.
Yes and no. I would say that I wasn't good at fly fishing until much later, but I was like single-mindedly obsessed with it.
Okay.
In a way that like cannot be explained. It's like there is no separation between the center of my soul and fly fishing. It's the same thing. It has always existed on the same plane. And at 10 months old, I could sit up, and I was actually walking at 9 months old and talking a decent amount by 10 months old. And so I was able to make it very clear through standing at the door and also demanding that I go, that my dad took me fishing at every opportunity. He could not go out the door and head down to the barn to get the equipment without me knowing about it, and I was always there.
Yeah.
So at 10 months old, starting then, he would put me in a canoe, drape me with one of those like fly helmets, the fly net bugs, whatever. Stick me in the canoe, tie the canoe to his waders, pull me upstream as he fly fished. So like my earliest memories.
Are there pictures of this?
I just messaged my dad this morning and I was like, do you have any pictures? I know there are some that my mom has, but I'm guessing that a majority of the photos are up north with my grandparents at their house.
Yeah.
But there definitely are. Like there's pictures of me as like a 1-year-old sitting in the big like wash bin, just like using the back of my thumbnail to scrape the innards out of brook trout and like holding them proudly and just like, and then I would bathe in the same little bin like 2 hours later. But yeah, that was everything.
Yeah.
And obviously continues to be everything.
Do you have any sense of what it was that just pulled you in so easily at such a young age? Part of the reason I ask, and I may have said this before, but as I have a son, he's 7, and whenever I ask him if he wants to go fishing, he's like, "Dad, fly fishing is the most boring sport in the world.
He's not
And
wrong.
he's just, oh yeah, and it's like I totally get it, and I don't.
Has he caught like brook trout all day?
That's the thing.
right.
Is like
Maybe not, right?
quite often, yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Quite often, there's not a lot of the feedback,
Right.
which you obviously need for it to really click. Maybe I'm just a terrible
No.
fishing
Dad
instructor. But no, I think it is partly like, we don't live in a spot. I'm sure I could find some kind of like trout pond to take him to, or he could
Bluegill pond.
Take
him to a bluegill pond.
Yeah, we do occasionally. We'll go to the pond, and he has a little tenkara, and he can just catch the sunfish and bluegills and stuff right off the bank. But
Still boring.
Yeah.
and that's the thing.
Still
Like
boring, Dad.
he'll catch one or two, and then he's going to the bushes to look for snakes, which is also just as great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
That's
excited.
my other pastime.
Yeah. As long as I can get him outside, then I feel like, that's a win. But back to the question, can you point to anything about it or about you that that made it really click? At a young age?
Maybe. I mean, I think that I was probably just somebody who is a magnet for sucking in information and just like hanging on to it. I don't really know how to describe what it is that I'm saying. I will say that I can describe the feeling, and that's the feeling that I've been looking for my whole life after that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just this sense that everything was safe, everything was good, everything was beautiful. Like, if I could put you guys in those memories, I would. It was just like mirror, calm water that's just flowing so slowly. And if you looked over the side of the aluminum boat, you're looking at the long grass, that's moving underneath like mermaid hair. I remember thinking when I was a kid. Sawgrass on the sides, the sound of loons that we're calling. If you've never heard a loon call in real life, it's like one of the most eerie, bone-chilling, beautiful things you can hear in nature. So the sounds of loons calling, coyotes yipping, mosquitoes whining next to my head, but knowing that they weren't going to bite me because my grandfather's 100% DEET that he got in the Navy was like on the rim of my hat,
Yeah.
And then the sound of my dad's fly line. And you can hear the water just touching the bottom of the aluminum, and it makes this really lovely noise.
Yeah.
The sound of my dad's fly line, and of course it's brook trout. So every 10 minutes my dad has one on and he's pulling it towards the boat, handing it to me to put in the little pouch in which we kept the brook trout, and then it was my job to hold on to them while they died in my lap. But the sensation of this was just like I was so zoned in on everything that was happening all around me the whole time, like so there and present and in the moment. And even then, I knew that somehow I was present in the moment and that I was going to like live forever. I remember being like 4 or 5 and being like, if this is what time is like, and Grandpa says I have 100 years to live, I am going to live forever, because it was so slow and so beautiful.
Wow.
And so now as an adult, I'm like, I'm not going to live forever, but I know that if I fill my life with this, that's as close as I'm going to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I've been chasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you've found it in places?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like
what kind of situations do you feel like you find it in? What are the ingredients of finding that?
Gratitude is one of them for sure. Like being grateful that you have the opportunity to do a thing. Knowing that you've made a choice to move towards gratitude, like being mindful of the fact that you are being great, like having gratitude to what's going on in your moment. And just being so purposeful about forcing time to slow down. The more that you're letting talks go through your head, the more that you're panicking about stuff, stressing about stuff. And I know we all have things to stress about. And when you start taking stock of those things and actively choosing not to, maybe the first time that you try not to, you're going to get 10 seconds of calm. And then it's all going to come rushing back in. But if you keep practicing, then maybe you get 30 minutes of uninterrupted presence of being here right now. And if you can work on that through using something as its backbone, I mean, it's really hard to build a habit that doesn't have a backbone, but if you can attach it to something else that you're doing, like fly fishing, and you...
Or untangling knots.
Right? Then all of a sudden, you are present, and you can make it last for a while.
Yeah.
But I would say gratitude is probably the number one thing to being present.
Yeah. Were there periods when you were younger or before you started studying, behavior and behavioral science, when that feeling felt like it was hard to find? Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually. Like being in school, being in big like social situations was really hard for me. I found it primarily like the second that I went outside. So I spent almost all of my time outside. I mean, I remember having like an argument with my mom because she was trying so hard to get me to just like sit down and like do a page of homework. Just one. Like, you're failing everything. Just do a homework. You spell the word tiger, Tigger. Just sit down with me and like do this with me.
Reading too much Winnie the Pooh.
And I fought with her so hard on it just so that I could go outside and play, that finally I remember her just being like, oh my God, be back in an hour. And I knew, and she knew, I was not going to be back in an hour. Like, there was no way. And I didn't come back in an hour, and we didn't have that conversation again. I was always outside because that's where I felt calm and good and in control.
Do you obviously that, I think there was a time where, people, maybe teachers, parents definitely would have seen that behavior in you as a drawback or there's something wrong, right? And I think, fortunately, nowadays, for the most part, it's understood that kids have a lot of different ways of moving through the world, and there's a lot of options for how kids can be successful. Yeah, I'm wondering, I guess, was that, figuring that out, was that a part of eventually getting into sort of studying behavior like you did? Like, what led to that point?
That's a good question. I think that I was always kind of like a people person. I could read people so fast. Like, I think that there was always kind of like, I was a little onion as a kid. Like, there were so many layers to it. And I think that I had a lot of empathy because I was such a weirdo when I was little. So it was like easy for me to see when like people were being mad, but I was like, this is a you thing, not a me thing.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was always there. But then, to be honest, I got into behavior analysis because I was in Marquette studying digital arts. And I was like, this isn't going to work. And I went to a...
Why was it not going to work?
Oh, because, everybody's in your ear and they're like, you're going to be a starving artist. And then like, you're actually living as a starving artist. And you're like, do I want to do this? And so you become a fly fishing guide instead.
Yeah.
So, I went to a Frisbee house party.
What is a Frisbee house party?
It was like, you had like the hockey house, all the people who played hockey, you had the Frisbee house. And actually at this point, I don't remember if it was hockey house or Frisbee house. It doesn't matter. We were at a house that was having a party.
Yeah.
Closest thing to a party you got in Marquette.
Yeah.
And some dude was like, oh, you're going to be an artist? You want to make real money? You want to go into industrial organizational psychology? And I was like, what is that? And he was like, it's the study that I'm studying. And I was like, okay. So literally the next day I woke up and I searched industrial organizational psychology. And one of the only places in my state that was doing that was Western Michigan University, which is one of the best schools in the world to study behavioral sciences. And I did not know this. So I call them up and I was like, hey, can I do IO psychology? And they're like, yeah, that's a graduate program. And you're like a second year art student. Let's tone it back a little bit there, bud. And they were like, how about behavioral sciences? You want to study ABA? And I was like, sure. And that's what got me in. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what I was getting into at all. but I loved it when I got there.
So you had no idea going into it what you were getting into. It was just kind of, I mean, is that I guess I wonder if, like, is that a theme for you? Not in a bad way, not in a pejorative way. Like, is that kind of how you've always operated? Like, well, I'll go do this. I heard about this thing, I'm going to go do that. Or I heard about this thing, I'm going to go do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that somebody sent me one time, and they were like, this is why ADHD is actually really great for entrepreneurs, is because you find an opportunity and you don't think too much about it. You just take it, as long as it's like within the bounds of what obviously is not a bad idea, right? If somebody was like, hey, you want to like sell your house and just like give it to a millionaire, I wouldn't see that as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunities are like inherently positive, but you see it and you just take it. And Nate always kind of like ribs me with an eye roll that like things just quote unquote fall into my lap. And it's because I just kind of like, I go with the flow, I follow opportunities, and then when you are following opportunities, more opportunities grow from that decision and they fall into your lap. And I feel like that's what happened definitely with ABA, because as soon as I was in it, all of a sudden everything made sense. Like, you're telling me that human behavior, sea cucumber behavior, the behavior of honeybees and their personal evolutions all fall under the laws of a science that I can track. And then with that tracked data, I can anticipate what that organism is going to do next, and with that data I can improve people's lives. Are you freaking kidding me? It was just like the coolest science, other than maybe biology, that I had seen.
Did you and had you, I can't remember when you started guiding and kind of getting into the quote unquote fly fishing industry. Was it before that point, or did fly fishing as a profession come after or during?
It was kind of betwixt. It was together, like they happened around the same time.
How did that come about?
I started working at Orvis in Grand Rapids because I had moved down from Marquette, was in my first or second year maybe of ABA. And at that point, I was working strictly in centers, working with individuals on the autism spectrum, and applying the science to help those folks reach their greatest potential. And work like that is hard. And it burned me out after a few years of doing it at like 80 hours a week while going to school, which doesn't even seem possible, but it is. And
did that grow out of the experience of having a brother with autism, like that, going into that? Or
maybe, if anything, I think that it was like having a brother on the autism spectrum, and I'm going to just refer to him at this point as Jeremy because that's his name.
Absolutely.
So Jeremy was very confusing to the whole family. Nobody knew what was going on. He had had a stroke in utero prior to birth, right? That they found later on a scan. And so then everything that was showing for him was kind of placed under this, like, oh, it's because he'd had a stroke. So he didn't get diagnosed or actually treated for autism until he was almost 21, somewhere in there. I think it was between the ages of like 17 and 21 is when he started actually getting like the help that he deserved, right? Because prior to that, it's like, well, he had a stroke, so it's never going to get fixed.
Was there almost like a, I don't want to say like washing hands of it, whether it's, healthcare providers or whoever, but was it kind of like that? Like, well, this explains it. Yes. Nothing we can do.
Yep. That was very much so. I mean, that was very much so the vibe, right? Yeah. Like there was still work getting done, physical therapy, occupational therapy, all of these things, but the behavior side of it, was just a missing key because nobody thought that could possibly be it. So it was very confusing growing up having a sibling who was just quote unquote different, but also made life as a child incredibly stressful and difficult. Nothing against Jeremy, obviously. Hi, Jeremy. But just saying that it was hard being a sibling to an individual on the autism spectrum, the way that it presented with him. And
it's hard being a sibling in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all have our shit, so.
For sure. And then you get into school and you start seeing the trends. I remember saying to my mom while my brother was like lining up the 50th toy model airplane in a row into the house, and then once he ran out of airplanes, he picked up all of the remote controls and started like adding those to the chain. And I was like, Ma, look at him. Look at, he's so autistic. And they're like, no, you gotta start. I'm like, look at him. Come on.
But was this after you had started studying?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
After I started studying it, all of a sudden these things are becoming more, I'm becoming more aware of it, right? So
what's the age difference between you guys?
About 8 years.
Okay.
Yep. So I was already in school when he was, in his year 12, whatever. And so I wouldn't say that I got into behavior analysis because of it. I think that it was very serendipitous that while I was in it, I was able to look at my brother and be like, oh my gosh, he fell through the cracks. We didn't know, and now we do. And this is how we're going to help Jeremy reach his potential.
Yeah.
And things are explained in ways that I thought were very helpful then, but I wouldn't say that Jeremy got me interested in it by any means, because we just didn't know that he had it.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it obviously must have made it or turned it into something much more meaningful for you. You like almost gives you a personal stake.
Yep. It really does.
What you're doing. And it sounds like to some extent it was, I don't know, fortunate for him that you met that guy at that party and called the university and asked about this.
Yeah, there's been a lot that I look back and I'm just like, the fact that I got where I am now, living my dream every day, is just this series of Kristen like falling because I stepped on a rake and it smashed me in the forehead, and so I stumbled to the left and got stung by a bee, and that made me put this on, and so I met this person, and it's like that has been my whole life, and a series of happy accidents. For sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like being out here on the Yakima did that start as one of those happy accidents?
It did, actually. It really, really did. I don't know how far back to go in this, but I was married. We moved to Seattle. We eventually found out that we were not compatible in ways that neither one of us really wanted to work through. We were just like, oh, wow, like you are a walking 401k and I am only interested in being outside and watching trees grow. And so we were both kind of like amicably like, let's be done with that. And so when that happened, I moved out. Got a camper, started living in a camper, and I was like, well, the easiest place to live in a camper and be close to work is the Cle Elum area. And so I moved out here and like found my spot, and it happens to be right next to Seattle, where there's a whole bunch of people who want to fly fish, and it's like got an airport that's an international airport where people can hop on a shuttle and come to me for the things that they want done with fly fishing. It's like everything has just been this very, if it hadn't been for that, this wouldn't be happening. To the point where now when there's like a hardship, I'm kind of like, hell yeah, bring it on. Like, what's coming? What's going to come out of this?
That's, were you going to say something, Cope?
No, I was just clearing my throat.
I mean, that kind of openness to life, to experience, to, experiences good and bad, it's refreshing and it's admirable, and I'm a little bit jealous.
I have a lot less at stake than so many people.
Yeah.
I don't have kids. I'm not like providing for anybody. So for me, it's just very easy. Like I try to be careful not to preach from that position, because I know so many people, it's much harder than just being like, screw it, I'll move out of the 4-bedroom house into a camper. Like, screw it, I'll downsize everything just to make this life work. Like, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's, going to work for everyone either. I mean, it sounds rad and, all of that. But yeah, I feel like everyone is different enough that, you know.
Until you're like showering in an outdoor tent shower using like a little, you know, propane heater that like fails right in the middle of you shampooing your hair for the umpteenth time this freaking week. Like out of a 10-gallon bucket that you pulled from the river. Like legitimately, that was how Nate and I showered for like 3 years.
And I imagine there's many other things like that.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's not for polite society to discuss.
Go on about,
but
right.
yeah, I mean, like those types of things, you have to want it. You gotta want it real bad, so that those things are just like, it's fine until you like, yeah,
like, right?
it is
That's
fun.
fun.
It is fun. I thought it was really fun. Yeah.
When did you get into guiding then?
In 2019.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was back. Was that back in Michigan?
It was out here.
It was out here.
Yep.
Okay. Is that what brought you to Seattle?
No. What brought us to Seattle was my ex-husband's job.
Oh.
He was a software engineer, is a software engineer. Mm-hmm. So he got in the door out here. And our like college friends just like up like a herd of caribou, just like went all at once to Seattle. They were like, well, we all like graduated at the same time. Let's go. So like 10 to 15 of them just moved out here, and then we're getting texts every other week that's like, what are you doing in Michigan, you lame-o? It's like, come walk on a mountain. Like, don't you want to don't you want to know what Puget Sound looks like? And it's like, all right, we got peer pressured. Yeah. But for the better.
What was it sounds like you were happy with the move for the most part.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that I wanted to, but then we came out and visited, and I was like, woke up early, walked out to this one lake that's out here. It's like up in the mountains. There's camping all over the place. And I'm sitting there trying to decide whether or not I want to move out to this place. And it's like golden hour-ish. It wasn't actually the morning, it was the evening, I think. And there was thunderstorms that were over one ridge of the mountains. The light was coming in such a way that it like painted the left-hand side of the mountains this like perfect alpine glow. The thunder clouds are like peach ice cream, like just like lit up from inside with all this orange gooey deliciousness, and it's like thunderstorming on that side, but it's not touching me, and it's all like mirrored in the lake, and I'm like, you're freaking kidding me. Like this, I'm still trying to hate it, right? And then I was like, well,
fine.
Yeah. I'm like, well, maybe. And these two freaking double rainbows just pop up, and I'm like, all right, fine, we'll move. And I was totally sold on that.
Yeah. What at that time and in the time since, what do you feel like have been sort of the biggest differences you've felt or seen between here and back home, whether that's culturally or in the landscape or in the fishing or whatever it is? What are the things that stand out to you, like maybe things that you're like, oh, I wish that we had that here? Oh, like
I wish that we had
or something
soggy, wet blanket thunderstorms here. Like I wish that we had like the big ass thunderstorms that you can consistently get at 2 p.m. every other day that just roll in and drench everything. What I wouldn't give for a thunderstorm where people weren't panicking that everything was going to light on fire and that we were all going to die. Like, can't we just enjoy a freaking thunderstorm? So I wish we had those, and I wish we had fireflies. I wish that we had fireflies out here. Those magic little suckers are just like, you can't have a bad day when there's fireflies in the evening.
I just saw a firefly. That was recently in Canada, and I was on an island, like a private island, and I saw this. This was like a story had just been told to me about how people from the United States can boat into this lake and potentially leave things on an island for their Canadian brethren to come pick up. Take like, that as whatever you will, right? Little presents. And so I'm outside on this private island by myself. I mean, not by myself. There's people on the island that I was with, but at the time I was by myself. And I see this little green LED light up, right? And I'm like, I see it again. I'm like, what is that? Because I hadn't seen a firefly in a really long time, right? And then, like, it started to trip me out to the point where I was like, that's
the
a
government.
package. that's a tracking device. That's an LED
100%.
light. Like that's what those dudes were talking about today, right? Like I found it. It just washed up here. Like I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble, but I'm gonna go investigate. And then like it moved, and I was like, wait a second.
That tracking package has legs.
Is this me? And I was like, okay, it's a firefly.
I love your like internal progression there.
I mean, there was only one of them. If there was a lot, I think I maybe would have put it together quicker.
Yeah.
Hopefully, perhaps. I don't know.
It's funny that you would only see
like,
one.
I would hope that for me.
I hope that for me, but I mean, I've seen them in the past, but not often. I didn't grow up around them, so it's still somewhat new. Like I didn't get a chance to like shine a light on it and actually look at the bug and see what it actually looks like. But yeah, it's super cool. It's like fireflies. Rad.
Seeing people encounter fireflies for like the first time. I mean, I've got one tattooed on my wrist, and I remember when I first moved out here, I had all these little kids that I was working in a school system with, and they were like, "Do you have a cockroach on your arm?" And I was like, "No," but no, I didn't say that. I was like, "No, it's a firefly. What's a firefly?" And I tell them about it, and you would have assumed that this little batch of kindergartners were looking at me like I was telling them that like there actually is real magic in this world, which is why I got this tattoo, and like there really is just these things that are going to move you to be so excited, and they're happening somewhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
They didn't believe me. It was like fairies were real.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So I would say those two things I miss.
Yeah.
And then recently, in the last year or so, I moved back to Michigan for a brief moment. Mm-hmm. And the culture is exceedingly different. And maybe it's just where I was working at the time, what I was doing. But I think the most heartbreaking thing about Michigan was like listening to people be so excited and like grovel at the feet of their federal holidays. Like, I'm just so grateful that I have the 4th of July off. And I'm like, yeah, wouldn't working from home be so cool? And they're like, what? Ew. Who works from home? And it's like, well, a lot of people work from home. Or the women who would be like, I just dream someday of like having a homestead and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you could.
Yeah.
You could do that. And they're like, no, I can't. Like just the societal stuff that seems to me ingrained in the Midwest is like, you're excited if you can work casually, dress casually on a Friday. You and everybody else goes up north on your one holiday that you're granted here and there. And like people seem very content with that and don't necessarily, at least in the circles that I was in, seem to believe that you can just push out of that. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But the vibes are so hard there of like, whoever you've been dating for 6 years, make sure that you get married and then make sure that you get your house. And so everything feels like if I'm not working and making enough money for that, then everything's going to fall apart somehow. And out here, it really feels like people are like, screw it, the world's burning anyways. Like, you know what I mean? At least in my circles.
Doesn't matter.
We'll get back to Kristen in a minute, but before we do, I want to tell you about the new Deco case colors from Decked. Deco cases are solidly built, weatherproof, go-anywhere gear canisters, and they come in a variety of sizes and configurations that allow maximum versatility for whatever ways you can dream up to utilize them. You can get them with a variety of trays and dividers, as well as foam inserts that can be customized for carrying everything from camera gear to power tools. With a handful of new colors, including Ranger Green, Blaze Orange, and Cool Gray, you can match the case to its intended use. So Ranger Green for that low-profile blending in look, or Blaze Orange for that can't miss it, won't forget it at the campsite, this stuff is important look. Deco cases are a great way to get in on what Decked has cooking for you non-truck owners as well. And like their truck bed organizers, they're made in the USA. Shipping is always free. Visit decked.com/flyfish to learn more, and then get out there, get decked, and get after it.
Well, at what point, so you started guiding in 2019, you said you weren't quite ready, but one way or the other, you eventually found a way to sort of bring these two big parts of yourself together. Fly fishing, something that started when you were little, but then your sort of academic work, behavioral studies and whatnot. At what point did you start to see that there could maybe be some overlap between those two things?
Yeah. I distinctly remember being out with one of my colleagues, and we were doing this great big casting instruction thing. There was probably 25 women there. They were all in this like great big circle pointed inwards, and my colleague was teaching them how to cast. And, you know, half the time they can't hear this person. The other half of the time they look really confused. And I'm listening to the way that it is being taught, and I'm just there for backup, right? Like, I listen to the lecture, I walk around, I follow instructions, whatever. I have no real autonomy here. But I remember sitting there and listening and being like, oh my God, this could be done so much better. Like, I was like, everyone's confused right now, and if we just did it the way that I know how to do it, it would be fine. And then I was like, wow, like, conceited much? And then I was like, wait, no, actually, because you're literally taking the knowledge that you have on how to teach, and you're seeing how it is not currently being applied in this situation. It's not you that's better, it's the teaching that's better. It's the science, the methodology behind teaching that is what's going to get students to learn. It's not that I'm inherently better, I just have knowledge of how to do it better. And in that moment, I think was like one of the first times that the seed was planted where I was like, yeah, I know exactly how I would do this if I were the one leading. You know what I mean? And
what did that look like specifically in that moment? You know, what were the things that were kind of like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this?
Oh, a huge one was like, stop talking so much. Stop using so many analogies. We are looking for actionable body mechanics that we can teach these women how to do. Stop talking about what the rod tip is doing. Are you kidding? This is the first time they've had a rod tip in their hands. And this is like somebody, I can't dance. I couldn't do sports. People would be like, if I went line dancing, I'd end up crying because it was like, I couldn't follow along. Like, what are you telling me to do? When people in my softball coaches would be like, your bat is an extension of your arm. I'm like, first of all, no, it isn't. Second of all, I don't even know how to use my arm. So like you telling me that now my arm is longer and also made out of aluminum is crippling. I don't know what you mean. So I watched that same look on the faces of these women who want so desperately to learn in the hour that they have. And they're being told like, throw a dart, flick paint off a paintbrush. And you just watch them being like,
pick up the phone.
Yes, they're like, that is literally the only thing out of those three that I've done. Like, I have never intentionally flicked paint off a paintbrush. I don't know what that looks like. I've never done that in my life. Same for throwing a dart. Are you kidding me? Have you seen how poorly I throw darts? Why would that make sense? Instead of talking about like, hey, stop looking at your line and expecting that to do something. Stop thinking about your rod tip. Think about what your body's doing. Let's learn how to control the movements of our body and become familiar with that so that we can make some progress here and get you in touch with reinforcement so much faster, because that is what makes people confident to learn, is how quickly do they come into contact with reinforcement. If it is way far away, it's going to be a lot harder, which is why I tell people, if you're going to take your kids fly fishing, take them to a bluegill pond so that they get the end of the behavioral chain first. It's called backwards chaining. You can also do it with like teaching a kid to tie a shoe, something that's complex and takes many steps. Start from the area closest to the reinforcement and then work back. So for the shoe tying, it might look like tie a majority of the shoe for your kids and have them tighten it. And then they get the, yay, you did it. Look, you tied your shoe. And then you ask them to do more and more that gets them closer to that reinforcement, right? But you start at the end. And that is one of the things and key concepts that I keep in mind all of the time. How do I make this so that we work on the gross motor skills first and get them into contact with reinforcement, and then polish it up and ask them to use the fine motor skills? Because asking them to use all of the fine motor skills and knowledge to get a good cast using the ways that we used to teach people, it's not going to take an hour. And 70% of those women are going to walk away being like, I didn't get it. I might not be good at this. Maybe it's not for me. I'm not going to try it again.
Well, with something as, you know, casting a fly rod is not the easiest thing in the world. How do you get that first level of reinforcement? Because, you know, you're not going to take a first-time caster and have them bombing a 60-foot cast, nice and clean and,
right.
Looking pretty. So how do you, what is the, how do you get them as close to that as you can? What does that look like? I'm curious.
For adult learners,
mm-hmm.
you can kind of show them what the progress or the process is going to look like. It is hard to get an individual that close to reinforcement when you're teaching them how to fly fish, if that is your goal. So if you tell them that we're going to be bombing 70-foot Brad Pitts out there, like, no, they're not. Like, just hands down, no, they aren't. Yeah. So instead, we move the goalpost. We're not trying to do that. What I am trying to get you to do is to learn how to stop your rod. Most people don't even know how to do that. They do a back cast. The weight of the rod, the weight of the line, pulls that rod tip back, and now they're dipping way too far back to get a good cast. So bombing a 70-foot cast is no longer your goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to get you to learn how to stop that rod. And then all of your focus and all of their intention in their practice goes towards stopping the rod. And the first time that they do it, you throw the biggest fucking party ever. Yeah. Like, it's so exciting. You did it. You're one step closer. Do you see on our skills map how you just got closer?
Yeah.
You knocked out the first thing. Let's see if we can do that 5 more times. And of course they will, because they're capable and they're like human beings. And if I can do it, they can do it. So they will.
Yeah.
And you celebrate each little thing until it's time to add the next. You move the goalpost just a little further.
Yeah.
And then we're adding on to that. And when we meet that goalpost, which we will, it's another celebration until, an hour in. And they might not be casting Brad Pitts, but they're definitely casting.
They can cast far enough to where a fish could likely eat their fly.
They can make that.
And have that reinforcement.
Yes, 100%.
Or start to have those reinforcements of actually catching fish.
And being able to recognize when their cast is good, right? So now they are visually getting reinforced. Every time that they get a little closer, they see that loop forming. They're like, oh my God, I did that.
Yeah.
You did do that. And it's so good.
That's so cool. I think that's honestly something that I must have kind of missed, when we talked before, that idea of breaking it down so that the you're moving the goalpost. The goal is to stop your rod. Mm-hmm. And as you're saying that, I'm just picturing people stopping their rod and being excited about that.
Yes.
And I love that idea. I really do. Yeah. I mean, that's such a, that is a great idea. 'Cause I used to do the same thing, like teach, fly casting and sort of fly fishing lessons. And I did not do it your way. And, I think it was still a lot of fun, but you weren't throwing as many parties. Yeah. We definitely weren't throwing as many parties. And, it's funny because I was always really resistant to the sort of, whatever I can't even think of what it's called, but sort of the standardized casting instruction that's out there.
I know the standardized casting instruction that's out there that you're speaking of.
Yeah. Yes. And, I don't want to say anything bad about them. I know there must be great instructors out there that work within that system and that teach people really well. But I think it was just kind of the contrarian in me that kind of bristled at the idea that you have to sort of follow the standardized thing and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I always just kind of wanted to do it my own way. But I did not have, this sort of foundation, that you had and have to be able to, like, I wanted to do things differently, but exactly what that looked like, I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of this programming, right? Is like, again, this is not like, I don't want to screw it. I'm going to say, I'm not like special. I just know how to do it, right? Yeah. And I love it so much that I do it really well. Yeah. But really, I mean, if you take instructors and they know how to cast, they do, because otherwise they wouldn't be in a position to teach. But when you really know something, when you know a task in its completion and in its entirety, you know it better than anybody else. And when I was in school, we worked on what's known as a task analysis. I've brought this up to you a couple of different times. And it's the difference between a 3-stage how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, like 3 steps versus 500 steps.
Yeah.
One of the things that my instructors did when I was in school that just like, oh God, I can see how annoying this is going to be kind of situation. They had a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, knife, jelly, all this stuff, right? And they said to the class, tell me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
And we were all like, put the peanut butter on the bread. And they took the jar of peanut butter and put it on top of the unopened loaf of bread. And I was like, oh, you mothers. Like, all right. So now at the end of our semester, when we built a new task into that string of task analysis every day, all of a sudden at the end, it's like, palm down, put your hand on top of the lid of the peanut butter. Your thumb should be pointed toward your sternum.
Yeah.
Cock that thumb toward your left armpit if you're left-handed.
Yeah.
Grasp it. Twist it away from yourself. Loosen your grip. Reposition it. Like, it's a 500 stage thing, right? And the whole point of this is that as an instructor, as a teacher, it's your job to assume that your students don't know anything.
Yeah.
If you make the mistake of assuming they know something, you're halfway to failing them.
Yeah.
And again, failing is not an inherently morally incorrect bad thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just how things work.
Yeah.
And so as an instructor, I started making those task analysis out of everything in fly fishing. How do we break it down so freaking hard that if you do have somebody like teenage Kristen who can't dance, doesn't understand the idea of a baseball bat being an extension of your arm, has never succeeded in anything athletic at all, how do we take that person and make sure that they actually do succeed? And that is being able to see, okay, they're struggling with this. All right, take it back one step. One rung on the ladder lower, and let's see if we can meet them there and then bring them back up the ladder.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference, I think, in my programming versus a lot of the other things that I see out there.
Yeah. Did you, was that sitting down and writing that task analysis or just thinking about it, was that like right after that first light bulb went off, you started going down the rabbit hole of this? Or did it take a little while for it to kind of coalesce?
Yeah. So like being somebody who typically rolls by the seat of my pants, I was just like, cool, I'll just start acting on this. I have 8 years of experience, all of my degree, all of this stuff. I'm just going to send it. And I did. And it did work. Yeah. And then I had to start looking at things that was like, all right, are these students getting Kristen on her best day of teaching, getting the same experience as these students getting Kristen on her worst day of teaching? And if the answer is no, how do we make it reliably replicable across groups, right? Back to the science degree. And so that's when I was like, okay, we have to standardize this. And if we're going to be able to standardize it, and if I'm going to be able to quickly get there, I need to actually thoroughly know this. It's not enough to be mediocre. You have to be the best. Get after it.
Yeah. I'm wondering what the sort of first... your first couple experiences kind of putting all of this into practice were like. Was it an immediate like, yeah, this is fucking working? Or were there some moments of like, oh, I don't know, Kristen? Or both?
It was full send. Like, I remember the feeling of it. I remember watching, like I said in the very beginning, like my students are the ones that are like, they're the ones guiding me and shaping how this works out. And I remember seeing the looks on their faces when they got it.
Yeah.
And when they got it so much faster than I think any of them had anticipated they were going to get it.
Yeah.
And it was so much bigger than, like, this is the kind of shit that makes me emotional, but it was so much bigger than like, I just made a cast. It was their child selves being like, oh, I am good at something. It was the moms who have been called mom for the last 7 years that were like, hell yeah, Rachel, you did it. And it's like, that's their name. And they got these little slivers of moments of time where it was only about them and whether or not they got it. And it was just watching people heal under these like seemingly minute experiences. And it was just so addicting to be like, no, it's working. And there was no... Once I knew it was working, it was probably the most like lightning strike down the spine kind of situation that I've ever experienced, where it was like, this is why you exist in this world.
Yeah.
This is it. You have found it. This is what you love. Other people are benefiting from it. You're healing yourself while you help heal them. You're setting people on who knows what experience, right? Like, just like a teacher who may accidentally set a child up to stop loving art. You know, maybe they give them a goal that's a little bit too complex, mix purple. Here's your blue and your red, and it comes out gray, and they feel bad. All the other students got it. That student might not go off to pursue art the way that they thought they might. And you never know how your interaction as an instructor with a student is going to set them on a path. You don't usually get those moments of like, no, I clearly know that this particular person is more likely to do this again in the future, and they're probably going to be real fucking good at it.
Yeah.
You don't often get that, and I got that all the time. And it was just these moments of like, no, this is going to work. It's going to work. They're going to succeed. That means I'm going to succeed. I'm going to be able to make my money. I am going to be able to make this my life. And there's absolutely zero going back.
Yeah. Can you tell us some stories about some of those first students that you worked with? You don't have to say names or anything, but just kind of like, you know, who they were and where they were at, and kind of how did it, you know, how did it click for them?
Yeah. There was this one woman who comes directly to mind when I was working at Orvis in Grand Rapids. And we weren't guides, right? We were just like there as resources, and I was in the women's clothing section, and I was like, let me into the fishing section, but I was in the women's clothing section, and this one woman would come in, and she would buy all the rods and do all the things, and she'd come back and talk to me. And as I got to know this person, it became clear that she was one of those women who has been consistently beaten down by her relationships with others, her work. Incredibly intelligent woman, but everything was a second guess. Everything was, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Like, just so goddamn concerned with everything else other than like her needs. And this was very obvious to me very quickly, especially as we started getting closer. And, you know, one day she's like in the clothing section with me trying on jeans, and pokes her head out of the dressing room, and she's like, I have a house on a lake. Can I just pay you to come and teach me how to fish? And I'm like, absolutely the fuck I will. So showing up, and we're at the end of her dock, and she's casting and working on the little bits of the cast that I'm giving her. And she's talking as she's doing it, right? So it provided this space for her to just like stop worrying about what her body was doing, and she's talking. And everything that she's saying is just following these in real time, like cognitive fiery explosions of I understand this. So every time that she would get something, something else would come out. She would get access to reinforcement and say, I've been in an abusive relationship for 10 years and always told that I'm too dumb or that I'm not good enough. And then she would get the next one and be like, this was a problem. This was a problem. And she's not trauma dumping. She's expressing how beautiful it feels to not feel that way.
Yeah.
To feel like she is capable of something, even if it's just casting for sunfish off her dock.
Yeah.
She's capable, and she likes it, and she's good at it. And it was just this moment of like, who else needs this? Probably everybody. We probably all need it in some way, shape, or form, that we need that. And I would see that in lots of different students. And I think that, you know, the behavior analysis edition, because that was prior to my schooling, my behavior analysis addition to this has just springboarded that in a way that so many of my experiences kind of blend together at this point, I hate to say, but they're all in a similar vein.
Yeah.
And there was a recent woman who came out, and I was trying to teach her how to stack slack, just get a longer drift. And the second she saw that two hands were involved, it was like, I can't do this. And I watched her body clamp up and get stressed until, you know, we break it down. And then all of a sudden she's doing it. And it was a moment of me saying, I see that you're stressed. In 20 minutes, you're going to be doing this as well as I can.
Yeah.
I promise. Yeah. So let's think about how we want to celebrate that in 20 minutes, and then we will. 20 minutes later, we're celebrating, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is giving, I don't even know if I'm answering the question anymore, but it's giving power back to people where they might feel like they don't have any.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
those are the moments that just really come to mind.
Do you think that what you're doing, the way that you teach, the way that you guide, from all the stories you're telling, it sounds like, it's obvious that it is, it's about much more than just fly fishing, right? Like there's some serious, deep, personal connections that you're making with people. But there's also some stuff going on with these people that is meaningful. And I'm wondering if you think that is that just a natural sort of result of approaching things this way? Or is that something that you have brought to it? Is that something that just, people are bringing to it? Where do you think that comes from? Or do you have an idea?
It's a mix of all three, I think. I mean, the way that I teach produces results. Mm-hmm. Cut and dry, it does. Mm-hmm. But tying it to the little things that I see in people without being invasive, I think is another important factor of it. And also the people who come to me want to tie the building the skills of fly fishing into their personal life. Mm-hmm. I think that people are thirsty for that kind of thing. We want meaning in this crazy life. Mm-hmm. And we can find it if we structure our lives in a way that we are building meaning into everything that we do. We don't live in a society that builds meaning into everything we do. We just don't. We build meaning into money. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes our family and friend relationships, right? Some of those are obviously healthier than others. Yeah. But there's not a lot of other opportunities where we are intentionally and consciously building that kind of thing as a practice into our life. Yeah. And I cannot teach fly fishing while pulling the soul out of it in the way that I have built soul into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that you have to change your approach at all between teaching men and teaching women?
No.
Or maybe really. Not change your... Maybe that's not the right way to put it. Do you find there's a different receptiveness?
I would say no. And I think honestly that also just comes from the fact that like I do know my shit so well that when I give instructions, it doesn't sound like there's room for you to discuss this with me. You know what I mean? Like this isn't for you to like tell me that like, well, I learned from so-and-so. Like, no, like we're not playing that game. So like, and it's not like a mean authoritarian way. It's just that like, trust me, I've done this. You're here for a reason. Like the people who come, men or women, they're coming because they know what they're going to get. Because I feel like I've been pretty transparent about the way that I teach, why I teach. So I can maybe name on my one hand a couple of times where somebody was not like ready to learn, capable to learn, coming in with a curious heart, and that doesn't determine, or it's not determined by being a man or a woman, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I do think that just the more open you are, the faster you're going to learn, and that doesn't make a difference between men or women.
Yeah, yeah.
What percentage, if you had to guess, are people who are learning how to, begin to cast and fish for the first time versus people who have done it, a few times or multiple times in the past?
Yeah, it's like, I almost want to say 50-50, if not, it's kind of, I get fewer beginners, like true beginners, than you would think. I do get them, but a lot of the people who come, I think, are people who have had experience with fly fishing in the past.
And maybe not such a good one, or just they're kind of giving it another shot in hopes that, like, it'll kind of stick better this time or something.
Or they've enjoyed it, but they, like, see the limitations that they have.
And need that extra.
And they weren't able to do it for themselves, which is totally understandable.
Because it seems like, and this isn't meant to be, a diss to any of the guides out there, but a lot of times it's like so results driven that it's like they're just having their clients lob an indicator rig off the back or front of the boat and catch fish all day. And that's great. Like a lot of people, that's all they want to do. But it's like roll casting and lobbing from the left side to the right side of the boat is, arguably like not fly fishing.
Sure.
You're not really fly casting, right?
And I bet if you ask a lot of those, you know, even the guides that do that every day, you know, I bet a lot of them would say that the day when they have somebody like that and they catch, you know, 20 nice trout is not as memorable as the day when they had, you know, somebody who was, you know, learning and maybe only caught a couple fish, maybe didn't catch any fish, but like built a real connection. You know, I feel like there's a lot of guides out there that would lean towards having more of those experiences.
Yeah, I'd argue that most of them do.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
nobody's here to make money.
Teachers. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, you know, I only asked that that question before just because, you know, the stories you're telling us about these women that are getting these great. You're building connections with them, and they are finding something. And you know, I was just curious if that is something that has you know stood out to you. But I can definitely see that it would. I think what you're talking about in terms of, number one, you make it very clear what is, you know, what's going to happen today. If you come spend the day on the water with me or in the park casting, like, here's what's going to happen. And, you know, I think your emphasis on setting yourself up as somebody that people can trust,
and have a good time with.
Yeah.
Must pay dividends.
Yeah. And I do want to speak to, as well as just say that, like, it's very easy for me to empathize and see the needs of women. Like,
sure.
We could have a whole separate podcast on that topic, right?
100%.
And I have seen so many beautiful souls come walking through the door in man form. You know what I mean? One of the examples that I can give is a gentleman who I took on a guide trip. I was walked away for a little bit, came back. So I'm sitting on the bank staring at this log on the other side of the river. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong. Like, what happened here?
Yeah.
And I come up and he points to the sunlight glimmering under the log, kind of in the shade of the log. And there's a little bit of sun catching it. And there's just this sparkle. Everything okay? And he looks at me and says, no matter what is going on in the grind of my life, it makes me really happy to know that sun is glimmering under that log with or without me.
Yeah.
And that was a moment of realizing, like, everybody is going through things. Women, when we are around each other, we feel very safe to discuss those things. But you don't often hear it from men, and that doesn't mean that it's not there. Yeah. There's so much pressure on a lot of men to do any number of things, right? And there's even less available for them to speak about it and express themselves. And so what I do with my program also allows men to be vulnerable, softer with themselves, get their needs met, figure things out, right? It's not exclusive to women and their experiences.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more before we go about just sort of Streamside Coven Co. and just kind of what you have built out here in the Yakima River Valley and what you are trying to build. And I'm curious, the thing about the FFI, whatever it's called, I can't remember off the top of my head. The master certified casters and all that kind of stuff. One of the reasons that is so pervasive is that there's just tons of people doing it. I wonder if, do you have visions?
I was going to say, it's also like the only one, right?
Yeah.
It's the only thing out there. So it's like,
yeah. And I wonder, like, do you have, goals to sort of grow, the Kristen Bufe method of, fly fishing instruction, like...
You mean like completely pirate and usurp the standing...
Or just, I could totally see... No, but, having it be an alternative that is not only available in central Washington, but that somebody in New Hampshire could go and find an instructor who does it this way, or somebody in Texas, or do you have
that is eventually
big goals? Yeah.
Yes, I have huge goals. Like I mean, that's part of the reason why sometimes I just sit on the floor and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, because the goals are huge. Yes, I do want to do that. I do want Streamside Cove & Co.'s way of teaching to be the new standard. I want people to see the difference and move over this way. And to be clear, fly casting is just controlled physics. It's just how do we get line speed in a linear direction, and like how do we make it work, right? And there's a million ways to do that. It's not exclusively this one way to cast.
Totally.
And so I do want to expand on that. I do want to train others. I do want to build this out. I do want lodges to want to have somebody on staff who knows how to do this. I do want to build curriculum for lodges and other places. I want to take what their needs are and build them into curriculum. There's so much that I want to do. And I'm just working on it one step at a time.
Yeah.
But I will get there.
Yeah.
And that will be the thing eventually.
Yeah. Have you had anybody reach out to you and say, hey, I want to learn this method. I want to understand a little bit more about how you do things beyond just getting the instruction themselves?
Kind of, but I think that one of the things, and I actually like kind of stuck my neck out proverbially in this, is that I haven't been telling people what exactly I do because I've been so afraid that someone's gonna take it, right? And like, I have to realize that that's the risk that you take, and that you can only do so much, and that people are definitely going to copy, and they're gonna learn, and they're gonna do it themselves. But what's coming for me, what I know in my bones is coming for me, is only going to come my direction if people know about what it is that I do. So this is actually a really meaningful conversation for me to have, because I'm kind of exposing the nitty-gritty of what it is that I do. So in that light, people haven't been reaching out and being like, teach me ABA, teach me behavioral science, teach me the way that you do this, teach me how to write out a task analysis. Nobody's doing that. They will now. But they're not doing it yet. What I do have is a lot of people being like, how do I become a guide? How do I start doing what you're doing? I want to live like that. I want to do this. I want to have this in my life. And I do have a lot of that. So I think this winter, I'm going to start doing, kind of teasing that out and doing winter webinars. Like, let's talk about how we build a program. Let's talk about women. Hey, did you know that you can bypass running a male-owned fly shop's women's program for free? Did you know that you don't actually have to do that? Like, oh my God, did you know that you can just do it by yourself? And here's how we're going to get that done, so that you can actually stop using yourself as like their only marketing strategy and then not get paid for it, right? Like there's ways to do this. So that is going to kind of be the start of that. And then we're going to work our way up and out, start training people, start doing what you said, where somebody in New Hampshire can be like, I want to learn how to do this. It's like, all right, cool. Well, then you want to go with Gracie because she knows how to get this done. You want to go with Rob because he's a badass and he's up in Montana and he knows how to do it, right? Start taking over from the grassroots level and just revamping everything.
So where do you get your sense of humor?
Trauma. Probably so.
Just to go totally left field before like, we leave.
I've always been a goof ass. I don't know. Like, I was the kid that when I became friends with my childhood best friend, she invited me to her birthday party out of pity because I was friends with some of the people that were at the party. So I show up and like, I get there and she's out front looking for me, and I had taken 2 water balloons and put them in my pants and was kind of like bouncing around in the front yard saying, call the popo. And that was like her first like social interaction with me, and she was just like, what is going on? And it's been like that. I've just been like an absolute gremlin throughout my childhood, and it took me into adulthood as well. I don't know, but I'm really glad that I have it because I like being a salty, witty freak.
It's you never saw it in like your parents or grandparents or siblings? No. Were they all pretty straight faced?
No. Like,
really?
I think that my dad is a goofball. I would say he's a goof, but I just didn't spend enough time with him. I think if there's any way that humor can be passed down genetically, I probably stole some of it from my dad. Yeah. But like the archaic, like crazy weirdo side of it just like got planted with the ADHD and just like grew. Luckily, people failed at stifling that nonsense. Yeah. And my mom laughed at every little bit of bullshit that I did in the house most of the time. Like, right? Like
your mom did?
She was always, she was with a kid like me,
yeah.
You can't love it all the time. But my favorite times was making my mom laugh when she really didn't want to laugh. That was my favorite.
That's awesome. What were you going to say?
Just like not to, take anything away from your programming and your teaching methods, but I have to think that like people's favorite part of spending time with you may not be learning how to cast.
It might not be.
I mean, it's because your personality is wonderful, and that's just from the 3 or 4 hours that I've known you for.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Like it's
well, the reason I ask is because the other thing that you spend some time on is trout psychology. Yeah. Or I guess we should say at trout psychology.
Yes.
On Instagram. Is it I can't remember. Is it on other platforms or just on Instagram?
Move, but it's just Instagram right
so now. I hope if people do social media and use Instagram, they should check it out. But it's informative stuff, but it's also really funny a lot of the times. I think one of my favorite recent ones was "Get in, fuckers! We're going roll casting," or something like that. Yeah. And it was good. And I think that
it's a Mean Girls reference.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't even get the reference, and I thought it was hilarious.
Good.
So, but I think that there is, it seems like it must be, sort of one of the various ingredients that has made all of this work is that that sense of humor, that sense of not being afraid to fail, not being afraid to look silly.
Yeah.
And I imagine that must be a huge part of why people like coming to fish with you and learn with you.
I hope so. I hope that I'm modeling come out and play.
Yeah.
And play is a very silly, no boundaries action. So
how has the trout psychology thing sort of evolved over time? How long have you been doing that?
For many years, actually, but
really?
Like nobody cared until this last year. It's actually like the anniversary of when people started giving a fuck.
So you went viral about a year ago?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was doing stuff beforehand where it was trout psychology, and it was like, let's look at the variables in a trout's environment that shape the way that trout behave on a daily basis so that you can find them, right? So to me, it's like, ooh, we're going to have this big nerdy thing and everyone's going to love it. And no one cared. Like, I was like, guys, come on, this is so cool. And everyone's like, all right. Good. So I'm like, well, shit, I'm not doing it right. And so, I'm trying to talk about all this stuff and it just wasn't hitting. And I'm like, why not? Why isn't it hitting? Mm-hmm. And I had to come to realize that, like, girl, my love, you are talking about things that, like, people get. These are first world problems. Like, people can't even cast. These are first world problems. Like, nobody can care about whether or not the fish is going to be, like, 6 inches under the log or 6 inches away from the log based on the sun.
Yeah.
Like, if they can't cast.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden it's like, all right, fine. Make a video of casting. If your line lands like this, probably you're doing this wrong. And it just went boom, like up and out. Yeah, like I woke up the next day and had like 3,000 more followers. And then the next day it was like 3,000 more. And then I was at work and I looked at my thing and it said 10,000 followers. And I was like, what in the actual shit is happening? So I made another one like it and then another one like it. And it just went whoo to the point that some dude was like, you're buying your followers. And I was like, I don't even know how to do that. I'm broke.
And you have There's a lot of people that follow trout psychology now, right?
Yep.
I mean, tens of thousands,
It's,
if I'm not mistaken.
as of yesterday, not that I'm looking every single day, every single minute and checking the analytics, as of yesterday, it was like 59,065 people. And I was just like, what in the world?
But yeah, at some point, you kind of do have to start like checking it and checking your analytics. And because, well, I feel like there's different reasons why a person might do that. You know, for some people it's just a business decision, but you know, for you, you're trying to build something, you're trying to grow something. So
Spreading the gospel.
all I'm saying is I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, yeah. That's been, I have like on my little thing here, it says airplane mode after 6 to 7 o'clock, because I'm like, girlfriend, you've gotta stop.
Unplug. Yeah.
Do you still mix in? So like I've watched some of your reels and whatnot, but not everything. Do you still mix in any of the more trout focused, like let's think about what a fish is going to do now that you know got in and learned how to roll cast fucker, like
right. Maybe, I mean, like I was thinking about doing it, I kind of left that all behind because it just wasn't what people wanted to see,
or they just weren't responding to it like
at
they
the time, right?
now.
Like maybe I just didn't hit the secret code for like making it work. I don't know, but you know, there's a certain part of me that is nervous about giving away too much, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I give away so much that people don't want to help me make my living?
Or then like they can get so much from watching your social media content that they feel proficient and they don't need to
and that's what I'm saying, right?
Spend money with you.
Because
it's probably a fine line.
It is a fine line, and I actually like don't really feel bad about withholding some things, because in fly fishing, in the industry especially, women are kind of like pushed into this like, well, you better be community building. And it's like, okay, why aren't the men community building? Like, why do I have to be, as a woman, responsible for building the community? Why do I have to be the one responsible for giving my work away for free? Why me? And I'm kind of just like not playing that game anymore. And so I am so happy to help people get their confidence and needs met through casting. And then if you want the higher level stuff that I don't think you can get someplace else, please come pay me. I will like teach the shit out of you, but like, please pay me.
Yeah. Well, Kristen, thanks so much for inviting us up and
thanks for coming.
Chatting again. This was really fun.
Sitting in my tiny camper with me.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It looks like it's perfect for everything that you've got going on, and
it is.
It's been fun to see. So
thank you for coming.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your summer.
You as well.
That is it for today. As always, thanks for listening to Sidechannels, presented by the Flyfish Journal. Sidechannels is produced and edited by yours truly, with production support from Jeff Galbraith and Colin Wiseman, and digital and web support from Jesse Lou Galbraith, Colby Messick, and Kopi Voita. Thanks as well to our sponsors, Decked. Get decked and get after it at decked.com/flyfish, and Patagonia, dependable gear built to connect with wild fish. Visit patagonia.com/fly-fish to learn more about the great stuff they've got going. And of course, if you're enjoying Sidechannels, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to rate and review the show. It makes a big difference and helps us reach new listeners. Don't forget to have fun out there, enjoy the process, and we'll see you in a couple weeks with the next episode.